3, go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, go. Welcome to That Japanese Thing. Today we're talking about the spring anime season for 2023. This is a Japanese podcast. We talk about anime, we talk about movies, we talk about anything to do with Japanese culture. My name's Chris, and my co-hosts are Yesh and Dylan. Welcome, guys. How you doing?
Hello.
We're good, and how are you?
Slowly getting better. It's taken a while, but it turns out I got COVID, so it's a bit of a bad one, but I should be better in a few days, I think. What you guys been doing this week?
I was also a little under the weather, so I spent a lot of the week taking care of some dogs and doing some gardening, just to give myself some time to recover.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Sweet.
I'm going for runs.
Yeah? Oh, what are you doing? Like, are you doing like 10Ks or something, or not that hardcore?
No, I'm not a runner.
No.
So I did a 5K this morning.
5Ks are great, though. So that's a great length. Do like a 5K every second day. You don't need to do any other exercise.
See, you are a runner.
Not for the last week or so.
No.
But anyway. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about the anime season, and just before that, I wanted to mention something interesting. I've got, open here in the corner here, we've got my anime list, and then we've found through the Japanese interwebs Anikore, which is the Japanese version of Mal. And I thought we'd compare the top few anime in each of them and just have a look at how different they are before we go into our top 3 each. So we'll have 9 of our top animes, and then maybe we'll talk about some of the stuff we think deserves to be watched but doesn't make our top 3. So let's look at just new shows on these lists. So essentially we got Oshi no Ko, Jigokuraku, and then I guess the Megumin spin-off as our top 3 on my anime list. Yeah. And then of course Oshi no Ko is actually just number 1 of TV anime in Japan, so that matches up quite well. Then the next one of new stuff is Skip and Loafer, which I think is pretty good, but it's surprising me it's so up there. And then Edo no Elf, and just for comparison, let's go and have a look where those show up on our version. So Skip and Loafer is number 9, and Edo Maya Elf. I keep saying that name wrong. Tell me when we get there. Can't even actually find it unless I've just... Oh, there it is. So it's like number 20 or so?
Something?
Yeah. I just it shows you the difference in opinion between the West and Japan. Just for reference, last season, if we go to winter, Tomo-chan was the best new anime, and winter, and then Onimai was the best one in Japan by like a lot. Like people really, really liked it, and I'm not even sure the Tomo-chan thing is going to show up on the first page of this. Oh, it does. It's at 10. So, it's not entirely different, but there's a huge variety. I mean, huge difference in opinion.
Yeah.
Like Onima is like 15 or something on here. So yeah, just don't. It's weird. I mean, I guess lesson learned. Don't assume that the opinion is going to be similar at all between East and West, I guess. Okay. I guess maybe Dylan, why don't you start us off with your 3 that you recommend?
Sure. So my top 1 this season, excluding all sequels, is Tengoku Daimakyou. It's Heavenly Delusion in English.
Right.
I was really impressed with it. So I've given quite a few things like at least 1 or 2 episodes, and only 3 things have really stuck for me. And this one has got great art. It's got a very interesting story. It's very different, so it's quite interesting for me. Number 2.
Oh, no. I mean, let's
you want to keep
for a
chatting?
second.
Sorry.
So,
yeah, go for it.
I only watched 1 episode, and actually just today, and out of sense of completionism. But yeah, I thought it was actually, I thought it started off really weakly, and I thought this was like kind of selling me something that the blurb had promised differently. But then as I got into kind of like the scavenging kind of portion of it, I thought, okay, this is actually quite interesting. Like it's a world where something has happened outside of Tokyo that's made the world into like a monster overrun kind of wilderness, right?
Yeah.
And we have like some kind of weird politic thing maybe going on between people who live inside the boundaries of like the walled city and then people outside. So yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting.
Well, very specifically that there's, I mean, it's not so much a city that's walled in as a school.
Right.
Which makes it even weirder in a way. It's kind of like, that's like almost like I mean, it is very much a science experiment.
Yeah.
Also, I did enjoy how it felt almost a little bit like we had returned to a sort of feudal Japan kind of situation in the outside world. There's this weird, I'm not going to call it religiousness, but this a feeling of spirituality that people have.
Yeah.
That's like very different to the modern day cynicism.
Yeah.
People are a lot more afraid of bad luck. People are a lot more afraid of superstition.
Well, they're like weird, like sort of spiritual monsters, which can kind of like, they're not just like animals that eat, you know, like big hulking monsters that eat people. These are like things that fly and absorb people.
Turn into other things, yeah.
And then we
weird.
contrast that to our 2 characters that are traveling through the countryside. At least one of which has a extremely more advanced technology piece than even modern day would be accustomed to.
But even like the kind of savage people outside of the school kind of, you know, have solar panels and things to kind of bring it as a post-apocalyptic kind of setting rather than just like a
so they go into they kind of they have more not exposition, but they go into it more in detail in later episodes, where what I appreciate about it is that it's not a lot of post-apocalyptic scenarios in media are just like one almost like
One
universal point in time, right? It's messed up and it will stay messed up. Whereas this is like because it's going back with these flashbacks the whole time, you get to see how the world was like 10 years ago, which was apocalyptic, but not as bad as it is now. But also, people have adapted to the way that it is now in ways that they hadn't previously. So it's got this sort of like...
Yeah, it's got like a World War Z kind of vibe about it, right? Where something happened, people are adapting, and then there's probably like a bit of a pushback to get back to civilization.
Yeah.
Yeah, from that point, I found it really interesting. But what else, Dill? What's your other 2?
Sure. Number 2, Kimi wa Houkago. Sorry.
Houkago.
Insomnia. It's really nice as a romantic anime to watch if you want to watch something with someone.
So this show is about a astronomy club, right? Sort of, not really.
I mean, yeah, like eventually, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also it's kind of got vibes of Through the Night, what a Call of the Night.
Call of the Night. Yeah, I was gonna bring that up.
Where it's just a guy and a girl wandering around at night because they have insomnia. I think that's the 2nd episode. I can't remember. And they also can't sleep during the night, so they're exhausted during the day. So the girl discovers like the hidey hole area of the school, which is the astronomy club, which has been sealed off for some reason.
Mm.
And
It's no longer in use at that point.
yeah, and only her and the guy know the key password code that opens the door.
Because it's her lock. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the. I think that's a pretty neat little. You've got your little secret base kind of thing there.
Yeah, it does
also...
have that feeling of like like a sort of a special, like it's their own little special place.
I love the way she was introduced, right? So she's sleeping in a fallen locker or something, cabinet, and like kind of rises out of it like a Dracula kind of vampire thing. that would freak me out if something like that happened in real life.
I do appreciate that the romance in this feels like it's going to be a very slow burn. We don't just suddenly have feelings just happen. I like that we're going to watch it develop, I feel. Also, the little trips that they take are actually just kind of nice to have playing in the background or while I'm reading or something. So, enjoyable series.
Good choice. Well, what else, still?
Last one is Jigokuraku.
Jigokuraku. Hell's Paradise, I believe.
Yeah. So when we were first like looking at the anime list, I said something that I feel has kind of come true, which is that the art looks really good. It is really interesting to look at.
Right.
But its story's starting to become quite generic for me at the moment, at least.
I thought it had a very good first episode, and now it's turning into One Piece or something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know about One Piece, but certainly it's like it is very generic feeling. So it's a bad no. I'm still watching it. I'm still interested in it, but it is lower on the list because it's not really,
Just to give some
the art, it's not like special for me.
Give some background to it. So it's about a ninja who has some special kind of powers. They're trying to execute him in the first episode, but they can't figure out how to because they try to cut off his head and people's swords break when they, try to chop off his neck. Trying to burn him alive and he just sort of walks out of the fire. So on and so forth.
Mm.
And
they do explain that he's trained in a ninja village.
Exactly, yeah.
His arc.
But they set up his character very well. Like he's kind of depressed at some of the stuff he's done. But he's like, he's got a wife who he loves and so on and so forth. And you kind of feel for him. And then they introduced like the female protagonist character. And for some reason she has a blade that can cut into him.
Or she's skilled enough to do it.
Or skilled enough to kill him.
It's usually she just is practiced enough.
Yeah. Well, they both have the kind of same vibe when you see like the souls of the dead clinging to them. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they got like a similar kind of curse vibe going there. But it turns out the Shogun is recruiting criminals to go and find herbs of like immortality, I think, from an island that someone has come back from. And this person is alive that has come back there, but he's got like mushrooms and flowers and stuff growing out of him. Yet is not dying.
Kind of an excess of life.
Yeah. So it has this amazing like initial premise, but as Dylan says, it feels like a battle royale situation, like the more you watch, right? So it's a bunch of people thrust into a situation literally on an island. Within the first few episodes, everyone starts killing each other, despite the fact that there are giant monsters and deadly like insects and stuff all around them that they have to deal with. So yeah, it I don't know. It's not bad at all, by any means, but it's not what episode 1 promised. I think. So I don't know, but it could be worth watching. Okay, Yesh.
Yep.
What's your first one?
For my first one, I picked Oshi no Ko. Because I honestly went into this with the lowest of expectations. Perhaps that's why I'm so impressed by it. So I'm someone who reads a lot of manga and involved in the manga community. And Oshi no Ko is one of those manga that had been making waves in the manga community. kind of like Love is War and assorted other shows that have become quite popular in the recent days. So when Oshi no Ko was said to be coming out as an anime, I did make waves in my local community saying, guys, probably going to be great. But I had no plans to watch it. For this podcast, I decided to get through 3 episodes and then report what it's about and drop it. But I think I am going to just keep watching this now. I expected an idol anime with some betrayal and intrigue kind of situations in the background. No, this is Death Note. I don't know. I don't want to spoil too much. This is a lot different to what I expected. It's largely about an idol who secretly had a relationship.
Yeah, idol culture in Japan is premised on purity, right? Sometimes, so it's a scandal.
Very significantly.
Yeah, it's a scandal if a girl has a boyfriend, even never mind. She's pregnant. Yeah.
So she secretly had a break, which she said she was recovering her voice or something, had children, and then came back to performing. And she's an emotionally broken person because she grew up from basically childhood in the industry. So she doesn't know how to use the word love in a non-false way. But one of her fans discovers that she has children and she's living with them, and she was sort of set to perform again still while being a mother to the kids. And he finds her home address, pretends to be a delivery guy, and then stabs her to death. And the story is actually following the story of the children.
Yes.
Who are set on revenge. And in particular, the male child is a calculative, hateful person.
Well, he's the reincarnation of the gynecologist, right?
Well, kind of. But
I don't know if that is kind of. I think that is just what happens.
Well, I mean, they say those words, but the personality merges into just, it doesn't matter. I don't think that matters at all.
Okay.
Because the personality that he ends up with is so very different. If that makes any kind of sense to you. The love that he felt for his mother was great and all of that, but the hatred that has come from this event has kind of erased everything else. The entire show, pivoted entirely. And I just feel watching that change and being able to accept it without feeling twice or thrice now, during Dylan's conversation, I heard the phrase, "It's not what the first episode promised us."
Right.
This show, the first episode is not what the first episode promised us. And I'm okay with that. It's selling itself based on that. And then 2 and 3 just keep going down the rabbit hole. And I'm watching a train wreck, but I hope it train wrecks into the correct person.
Yeah, it's a bit schizophrenic, right? It sort of promises violence, but also cuteness at the same time.
Absolutely, because we're dealing with idols. But isn't that a fantastic look at idols? The idea that we expect perfection and cuteness and nothing else, but they're humans. They're people. There's things behind them.
Murderous people.
Murderous people. But deceptive, uncaring. I was broken. While she was talking, a lot of what she was saying was the words of a broken person. She couldn't understand what love was, and she was lamenting about that. Because so much of that was used in her performance, she couldn't tell what was real anymore. And I don't know, man. I think this show is going to explore some very deep and very heavy things. And normally I try to avoid shows that try for edgy or violence for the fun of it. This show doesn't feel like it's violence for the fun of it. This show feels like the revenge plot is going to ruin everyone, including our MC, and we must just be okay with that.
I think it'll be a wild ride, especially if you don't know the story. But I'm not sure if it's for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a bit too disturbing for me.
Yeah, it's a bit too much uncomfortableness in certain parts of it.
Having read all of the other shows that created waves on the manga places I read, this is one of the few ones I did not get into when it was a manga, but I do know that the general consensus on the final chapter of this was very positive, extremely positive. So if this adapts the manga correctly, I don't think the end is going to leave you feeling empty or shit.
Very highly rated on both the Japanese and the English side. So
Incredibly animated, incredibly voice acted. I loved everything about it. Music is solid. I genuinely think this is going to be the breakout.
I mean, it better be for an idol show, right?
Well, there's another idol show this season. But let's talk about that another time.
Okay, we probably will soon. Yesh, what's your third one?
No, that was my first.
First,
this
second
is
one.
my second.
Yeah.
My second is Dead Mount Deathplay.
Dead Mount Deathplay. Okay.
So Dead Mount Deathplay is a kind of a confusing mix of a bunch of storylines. It's a little bit difficult to determine what exactly is happening. But it's kind of a reverse isekai, and now that you're no longer paying attention to the words I'm saying, it's a weirdly backwards reverse isekai. The hero...
I watched the first episode, but I can't remember it. Please just give us a
Don't
summary.
worry. The problem is, with all of the anime that has come out recently, there is no way you could have possibly paid attention.
Right.
The hero has managed to defeat all of the Demon Lord's underlings and finds his way to fight the Demon Lord. In the battle against the Demon Lord, they cast their final abilities and it flashes to white. We wake up in the body of a recently murdered high school student in the real world. A bunch of stuff happens that I don't want to spoil because this is that edgy show. This is that show that does the extreme violence and the phrasing for the fun of it. And it turns out that the character we're following is not the hero reincarnated into our world. It's the Demon Lord reincarnated into our world.
All right, yeah, that was the twist. Okay, yes.
And the story of how he has gotten involved in a ritualistic game magic thing, death game kind of thing.
You know what the problem is? It's not even like there are like three other shows that are like that.
Well, I think this does a lot of stuff separately, differently, which I think it's doing very well. But the problem is, if I talk about individual elements, it'll make anybody who's been watching anime for the last 10 years glaze over.
Right.
It's a reincarnation. It's a reverse reincarnation. It's the Demon Lord that came through. All of that sounds kind of boring. But the author for this is from Durarara. It's going to get crazy. And all of the characters are actually interesting. Maybe the story in the first episode wasn't too much, but I promise you, the characters are very interesting. And then in episode 3 of this, it just becomes wild. I don't want to spoil any of this, because I feel like this is one of those shows no one will start watching, but anyone who gets past that beginning will love.
Maybe. Difficult, though, because it doesn't stand out particularly to me. Or it didn't, because I don't even really remember it that well.
Well, that's the problem. The first episode is about a reverse isekai. So, like,
but I mean,
everyone's like,
there's two reverse isekais, right? As well as this, right? There's also My Second Time in the World, and then there's...
That's not a reverse isekai. That's just an isekai.
Well, he was in the isekai, and then he goes back to the real world.
Back, and then he goes back to the isekai. The story is about him going into the isekai.
Well, him and the antagonist, I assume this is the same thing happening to both of them. But anyway. And then there's the other one, which is kind of split between the isekai world and the other world, which was something like gain power and dominate both worlds. I can't remember what the English title is.
Don't worry. That's the most generic of this one. There's a doorway to the other world, so our character goes to the other world, comes back, goes to the other world, comes back. But this is the story of a fantasy character coming into our world, a reverse isekai.
But I mean, if what you're saying is they're all pretty good, you know. None of them are like terrible to watch, right?
I'd become great in the other world, and the real world is boring as fuck. It's ridiculously generic.
It depends what you like. It's got interesting elements in it.
So,
it's a little bit pandery, I grant you that. But it's not awful to watch by any means.
Is already at 5. We haven't gotten halfway into the season.
Yeah, people
One
like
of which is
people.
the Princess of
Some
the
people
Nation.
like
One of
that,
which
right?
Is like the Devil Lord.
Some people like that.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. But this is actually.
And I think it's quite interesting that they're trying to balance like Princess of the Realm harem character versus clothes model is one of them in like a job he did on a photo shoot. So that's kind of fun. It'd be interesting to see those sort of characters interact if they do. But anyway, yeah. What's your third one?
My third one is Boku no Kokoro Yabai Yatsu.
My heart
which
is a
is
dangerous thing or
The
something?
Dangers in My Heart.
Dangers in my heart, yeah.
Now, if you want to talk about total bullshit in the first episode that never comes back, this is the show for it. I won't say that this was like my third most
But
enjoyed show, but
it's strange that you like it. I thought you were going to hate it.
Let me finish. This wasn't in my top 3, but because the other
Okay.
4 shows in my top 3 were shows that we were going to discuss, my 8th of the season came out, and it was this show. False advertising in the extreme. It starts out with this character who's an outsider, like all of these shows do. Except this guy has violent thoughts about his classmates because he's such an outsider. Which is not unique to this character, but in this show they animate it. And then those thoughts go away and we basically never see them again. I think by episode 3 they're gone.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. Probably episode 3, he's just
So-
fallen in love with her, right? Basically.
He started to.
But I
interact
think
with
the
other
interesting thing is
classmates as
he's not like he's not a normal person, so you can have kind of that interesting play of like a weird internal dialogue going through his head.
well. I feel like
Because it's not like what is the
My
other
teen
one?
romance is snafu is
No,
just
no,
way
no, no,
better
no.
than this.
What it's emulating is Takagi-san, right?
It is emulating Takagi-san to a certain extent,
But it's with a
but Takagi-san is
Nishikata who is kind of rotten in the beginning, and so he has to kind of get out of that place. So that at least is a bit different.
So, he's introduced to us as an outsider. He feels like he's different from other people,
Yeah.
and that other people are subhuman in a way. He doesn't treat other people as people. He treats
Yeah,
them as enemies.
Exactly. So he has
Which
to kind
leads
of
to those dark thoughts.
grow
And
as a
then
person.
he feeds, and this is where the show sharp turns to the left and loses me. If anyone remembers, I think 2 seasons ago or last season there was the Angel Next Door.
Last season,
World
yeah.
Me Rotten.
Yep.
It's the exact same show.
It's not as bad as that. I don't
He gives her some
it's
chips
as bad
and
as
becomes
that.
popular. He gives her some chips and becomes popular.
Oh, Yesh, I mean, that Angel Next Door thing is actually like a really
He
weird,
gives her an
weird
umbrella
watch.
and gets the girl to serve him as a maid.
No, that's not true. It's like a weird psychological kind of thing going on in that book. Sorry,
He
in that
feels
show.
lonely. He lent her an umbrella. No one in the world was.
No,
nice to
but
her.
like the whole
The
thing
most
is
attractive
about
woman.
both of them can't just admit their feelings, right? So
Yes.
it's inventing more elaborate ways to spend time with each other without admitting you like each other. That's what that show's about. This show is kind of about like a ditzy girl who really likes eating snacks, and
Mm-hmm.
a guy that at first wants to kill her, like quite literally,
Yes. She's popular, so he wants to kill her.
turning into like a little cute high school love story. Well, not even high school, like
They
middle school
both
love
enjoy
story.
spending time in the library, and he gives her chips, so she falls in love with him.
Yeah, it's not really the same thing. It's
Isn't it?
no, it's
I
a
want to
very
remind you,
different feeling show.
The intro to the reason why Angel changed is because she was the most popular girl in school, so she tried to separate herself from others.
No, Yesh. It's because her parents told her that they didn't love her and they didn't want to spend time with her. That's her backstory.
Cool, but she's also the most popular girl at that school.
Sure. I don't know what
And
that has to do
she
with
keeps,
anything.
wait, let me finish. She keeps everyone else at school separate from her. She puts up a wall against everyone.
Right, because she thinks
Then
love
one
is an
day-
illusion. Yeah.
Then one day a boy gives her an umbrella and she falls madly in love with him and becomes his maid.
No, not really, no.
That's literally what happens. Feel free to disagree with that as much as you want. That's how it happens.
Okay.
He does nothing to encourage that love after giving her an umbrella.
Well, if we ignore the plot of the story, then I agree with your assertion of some facts that happen.
And then this one is the most popular girl in their class who is very attractive. Wants to be left alone to eat because she's actually more hungry and her friends have high expectations.
Well,
of her.
yeah, I mean,
She
it's
can't
it's
eat in
cute.
front of
She's
them.
a model who's not allowed
Yeah.
to eat snacks, so she sneaks them in
She's very
during
tall,
school.
and I will give you that the dynamic of her attractiveness and everything is quite well done. And then he shares snacks with her and her alone time in the library, and they.
It's
fall
also
in
just nice not having like a super smart kind of
MC.
female protagonist in this kind of story who's manipulating the guy. This is very much there's no actual manipulation going on, which is so rare for a Japanese like love story dynamic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like the whole thing about Takagi is, she's just kind of
twisting it to make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and the angel story as well. Both of them were kind of manipulating situations because they didn't want
to spend more time together.
Yeah. And this is just they're both kind of weird, and it both kind of works for each other. So, it's actually it's interesting. It might not be good though. It's not my favorite high school romance of the season by any means, but it's very easy to watch.
In a season where we have the Insomnia show, this just is so milquetoast.
But this is like a popcorn version of the Insomnia show, right? So this doesn't require any kind of investment in anything. You don't need to know what's going on to watch this.
Yes, yeah.
You could just put this on in the background.
Right. If you don't look at the screen, you'll know what's happening.
Exactly. So this is just like a turn your brain off kind of show, whereas the Insomnia one, is a little bit more involved.
Mm-hmm.
Was that all three?
Which is, I think, my favorite part. Yes, that is the top three for me.
Okay, let's go through mine. I'll go for my third favorite, which is my love story with Yamada-kun at level 999. It's the reason I like it is it kind of reminds me of joining our geeky club in the beginning, because the female protag is only interested in like the subculture she's like kind of found herself in because her previous boyfriend was into it, and then she kind of got hooked on it. So she's still trying to like come to terms with like being a geek, I guess. So like she shows up to like a live meetup with the online group, and is struggling to come to terms with the fact that the cute little girl character she's friends with in the real thing is actually just like a guy, right? And like some of the guys are like 45-year-old guys pretending to be
little cute girls,
and so on and so forth.
I will say that they portray her love for the hobby really well.
Yes, yeah. You can see she's like even like she knows she probably shouldn't be doing some of the gaming stuff. She should be concentrating on her university stuff, but she can't help herself. And yeah, she's really really into that. So that's a great way of doing that. And then it's a bit I don't know if it's a bit bland, maybe. The main character kind of has no personality, and yet he is also an online video game streamer, which one feels is like something you'd need to make that work. You need to have like some sort of standout personality to attract viewers.
The problem is, if you give him a personality trait, you're turning off a portion of the base that's supposed to be falling in love with him.
I know, I understand how it works in the anime, right? I understand he's the straight man and she's like the the bubbly person, right? But he plays that in game and out game, and kind of her character is very similar in game and out game. But yeah, I guess if he's like a StarCraft player or something, maybe it's not as important. FPS kind of players don't need to have a personality so long as they can click really quickly. But yeah, what I kind of like is just the way that the director has filmed the scenes, and he kind of lingers on some of like the little details, and they come back in like an episode or two later, and it's like a member berry, but a recent member berry kind of thing. So I like the way it's filmed. But yeah, it's not amazing.
I really enjoy how passion is conveyed, even for the slightly inexpressive male character. There's like, when it comes to gaming and stuff, there is a sense of passion with everyone in the show that I really respect.
Yeah,
because I do feel like a lot of shows would show that as like a thing that's detrimental to their life, and they do show that she is like perhaps suffering at some stuff because she wants to do other things.
Do you know what's also strange is that you don't often get a geeky shoujo kind of thing.
I don't know. I feel like we do get geeky shoujos a lot nowadays. The last show that was like this was Netoge. I forget what the other thing is. And then the show before that was the one you loved, where there was.
But it's not a shoujo. That's just a straight kind of romance, office place romance, right? This is specifically like from the female perspective.
Very shoujo. I agree, but
Yeah.
a fair number of these shows have a shoujo element to them.
Yeah.
The video game club shows, I mean specifically.
Well, I mean, they always have like a romance thing going about them in that sort of case.
But also, the majority of the club members are female. They talk about the problems of being girl
Yeah,
gamers.
but non-shoujo shows have that problem as well, right? Like a harem is a harem. But anyway, that's not what we were talking about. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing, I think. Magical Destroyers. Mahou Shoujo Magical Destroyers. This is about a Japan which has gone crazy with power, and a government agency has rounded up all the otaku for their own protection and forces them to reside in a prison, essentially. And you have a bunch of otaku who are leading a magical resistance against the government.
11s.
Without spoiling anything, magic exists in this world, which it kind of felt like they were going in a direction where it didn't really, or it wasn't going to in the first episode, where all the magical schoolgirl transformation things kind of felt like they were just people being inspired.
Or like how the person was seeing it because they love otaku.
Exactly, right? But no, then they fall from a, what do you call it? A halo drop kind of situation. And turn into the magical girl and then assault the army. So magic is real, and magical schoolgirl things are real. What's the guy's name? Otaku Hero? Something like that?
I can't remember his name.
I think
This show is the
Otaku
first
Hero.
show I watched.
Yeah. Dylan, you don't like this, eh?
Yeah, well, I watched one episode and it bounced off completely. I had no desire to keep going.
Right.
So let me just say that the story for me is like pretty weak. I'm not planning on watching this for the story, but I haven't enjoyed the animation in the show so much in like I think a decade.
It reminds me so much of the little episodes of Genshiken where we see Hibiki, the Hibiki anime in it.
Kujibiki.
yeah.
Kujibiki. Yeah.
Kujibiki. It feels like a very old mixture of like Gundam and Dragon Ball, but like old. I'm talking 80s.
Yeah, well, I mean, it takes place in 2008, and then we fast forward 4 years to 2013. But there's been no anime culture since then, so we're very much dealing with post-Harui fallout in the anime world, I guess. So it has all of those sort of themes going through. We don't have isekai and that sort of stuff popping up just as of yet in the show. I don't know if that's going to come or not, but we'll get to see that. No, I'm really enjoying it. I think, as you say, Yesh, the story is not necessarily super unique, but I like the characters, and the animation is pretty good. So definitely another kind of action thing to watch. Last one is we're not sure how to say this, I guess. Mashle? Mashu?
Mahou.
Is, I think, Mashuru is what is written here. His name is Mash, though, in the show.
In the show, it's Mash, yeah.
And he is a blockhead. A real dumb blockhead. His only special ability is he's really good at working out. He lives in a magical world where your magical ability is prized above all. And in fact, the world wants to annihilate non-magical people to stop them from diluting the bloodlines of the magical people. But he lives in the forest with his granddad, who is not his real granddad, but his adopted granddad, who says, "Mash, never go to town. People will discover you. It's dangerous." But what does he like, Yesh? What's his favorite thing?
He likes cream puffs.
He likes
And
shoe cream.
puffs will tempt him into town anyways.
He gets to town, doesn't even bother to disguise himself. Because why? Because he's an idiot. And he walks up to the place, he places an order, and the baker notices he's not a mage. And reports him to, like, the secret police, I think? Normal
Magic
police?
police, but
Magic
yeah.
police, yeah. They try to kill him and his granddad for, you know,
Threatening the
harboring it?
bloodline of magic.
And he beats them all up so
With
thoroughly.
pure
Yeah, with pure muscle power. Also, Mash doesn't understand doors. He destroys every door he comes into contact with. He's very much a D&D character, isn't he?
He is very much a min-max.
But he is so incredibly powerful that every time a mage tries to cast a spell at him, he just walks up to them, snaps their wand, and beats them into the floor. So the secret
my
police
favorite.
guy decides, you're actually worthwhile, and I want you to infiltrate the wizard school for some reason that we're not yet really aware of in the show, and essentially be our kind of spy. And so yeah, that's the premise of the story. What do you guys?
yeah.
What do you think of it, Yesh?
So I read the manga for this religiously. If they keep the comedy in, which they have been so far, I'll be there. I'm going to keep watching. For me, this is a gag manga with, a gag anime with intercut scenes of great action.
Yes.
And they do the action quite well. But for me, the reason why I will come back is watching Mash ruin his life trying to get cream puff.
he's a bad guy, actually, when you think about it too much.
No, yeah, he's a terrible character. He was raised without brothers, sisters, or a community.
Yeah.
He hasn't been socialized.
So
He only exists to eat cream puffs. But for me, this is one of my highest ranked for the season. I would consider this one of my favorites so far.
it's also very much it's the Harry Potter Hogwarts school, isn't it? When you think
It's
about
very
it.
Harry Potter-like, but you can tell that the author wants to make fun of how they look at things for value,
Yeah.
or especially how they view muggles. Like, it's like someone got offended by the phrase muggles and made an entire anime about it.
Yes, yeah, but everything has a one-to-one kind of satirical reference to Harry Potter. So we have, the female broom teacher who teaches people to fly. We've got a Snape-like character. We've got a Dumbledore-like character, and
The principal, yeah.
magical exams and all this sort of thing. And it's just delightful. It's not smart, but it's funny, and you'll enjoy watching Mash subvert expectations as he beats all the wizards to a pulp. Okay.
And Dylan, what did you think of MASH if you watched?
I haven't watched any episodes of it, but I will have a look at one
Sure.
at least before I decided. It honestly doesn't sound like the kind of thing that I would
Appreciate, yeah.
appreciate. I mean, gag anime very often falls flat for me. Every now and then it does seem to stick, but like in short format. And these are normal length episodes, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
20
22 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've also never been like hugely into Harry Potter, so like the parody aspect of it for that
Would fall flat, yeah.
kind of falls flat, yeah. But I'll look at it.
So, let me just get back to the go here. Let's give a few honorable mentions then, I guess. Let's just do, I say limited to 2 each, if you have any. And I'm going to just talk about the Japanese list quickly before we do that. So, the top 3 new anime on the Japanese list is Skip and Loafer. Did you watch any of that, Yesh?
Nope.
So it's pretty much what we were describing. It's a countryside school bumpkin who comes to Tokyo. And her mission is to be like a bureaucrat for some reason. So she wants to get all the top grades and be the president of the student association, that sort of thing. It's do you remember... Oh gosh, Parks and Recreation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an origin story for Leslie Knope,
Oh,
but she's Japanese. So every now and then we'll flash forward to her being like, whatever the equivalent of a Japanese senator is. Like in her pantsuit, having been driven around by the Secret Service. And she'll be like, well, that started today when I went to go and meet the student council president. But but which is counterpointed by like a ditzy guy who's like a lackadaisical kind of, just go with the flow sort of character, which I guess would be the Andy, maybe. A counterpoint to my analogy. But yeah, pretty fun little side story. Edo Maya Elf. I don't really like it that much, to be honest. Did you watch any
I'm not
bit?
planning on continuing it.
So
I have watched 3 episodes.
yeah,
The
me
first
too.
episode actually was kind of okay. Like I was almost interested, and then it went back to cute girls doing cute things, which is fine.
I just don't think there's that much to the story beyond
Well, cute girls doing cute things.
the
It's never gonna
novelty
be-
of there being an elf in Tokyo.
Based on the opening song, it sounds like there's lots of elves being treated as god figures. So I think the show is going to develop into traveling around Japan looking at the other elves.
I mean, if it does that and it turns into like a travel show just to like, show places in Japan,
Well,
I'm not
that's the
against
pitch.
that, right? Yeah.
It's going to become a travel show. That's the idea.
But as it stands, it's it has one joke, which is that there is a 500-year-old elf who is
Kids going outside.
like hates going outside and secretly just wants to order like gunpla online, and that's not super interesting beyond the first episode, but it's very popular.
In Japan. It's very popular in Japan.
In Japan. And new things. Yeah, I think we've talked about the other stuff. Oh, there's Aono Orchestra. I really liked the first episode. It's about it's the exact same story as Mashiro no Ota, the one about shamisen players. So it's about a guy. His role model violinist is dead, who was his father, and he kind of gets forced into being the lead kind of character organizing an orchestra. Shot very well. The music is good. The characters are much more standard anime characters than your average music-driven anime. It's not like Piano no Mori. It's not exactly like Mashiro no Ota. It's just more like a club room anime that happens to be about an orchestra. But pretty good.
Then I will mention Yusha Gashinda.
Oh, yeah.
Yusha Gashinda is better than I expected. I thought it was going to have the lowest budget imaginable for animation. The opening song for this kind of like shot me out of the water with that. I know the manga for this, and they're adapting it quite well. The jokes carry across nicely. The characters are actually developing well. It's going better than I anticipated, let's say.
It's a bit creepy, though, isn't it? Is that?
I don't have any problem with anything that's
Don't you, I mean, the man, he's a zombie and he's just getting more and more decomposed. It's just a bit gross.
I mean, I don't know, man. I watched Dragon Ball when I was young. Nothing in this is as gross as that. So
No, I don't mean necessarily disturbing. Just viscerally, like imagining how he must smell, kind of puts me off.
Well, I mean,
especially like the thing is like he's in the body of
the
hero. And like people come up to him and want his signature. Girls are kind of swooning over him, and sometimes they have to fight their urge to run away from his stench. I don't know.
Well,
That makes me feel a bit
personality of
weird.
the main character is a little bit shitty.
Oh, for sure.
So they're just making that manifest physically, so that our MC can never win.
Yes.
Because if our MC wins, his head will become so big it'll explode.
Yeah.
This is Kazuma, but like nerfed, the anime.
Oh, he's a better person than Kazuma. But yes, yeah.
The first thing he did when he entered into the body of the hero was get his childhood friend to dress up in a bikini.
Sure. Still better than Kazuma. Princess
not
Saga.
sure. He promised to spend the rest of his life with a lowly necromancer.
What's different? Yes.
Princess Saga. You said Princess Saga. I'm saying they're the same character.
Yeah, they're the same character. They're just the guy copied Kazuma.
And then Kimetsu no Yaiba. We said that we wouldn't talk about second seasons too much. but it's absolutely necessary that I bring up Kimetsu no Yaiba. They kept up the quality. They haven't decided to sell out yet on just rushing through the story or anything.
I mean, why would they? They're making so much money with
Chris,
Kimetsu no
you
Yaiba.
keep saying things as if making sense matters to people with money.
I don't know, I feel like now that Sony has bought all of the anime stuff, it might. That is seemingly the only thing that matters to Sony. But yeah, moving on. What's your other stuff? Yes?
Has decided to keep in quality.
Right. Yes, we lost you there for a second. Could you repeat that?
Sorry, I was saying, Kimetsu no Yaiba didn't lower in quality like One Punch Man Season 2 or assorted other shows, Shield Hero Season 4 or whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, the difference in popularity is substantial, right?
Well,
I mean,
One Punch Man Season 1 was way more popular than Kimetsu no Yaiba.
No,
Season
I don't think you understand how popular this is in Japan, Yesh. I mean...
I do understand how popular Kimetsu no Yaiba is. It outsold One Piece for 1 month, which hasn't happened in like a decade.
And that movie, what's the Renju Train, Mugen Train, whatever
the
it
train,
is. Yeah,
Mugen Train.
did super well financially. And, I mean, it's just... I mean, it could be like a One Piece kind of property for whoever owns it.
The problem is that the end of the series is written already, and this thing is adapting accurately.
Yeah.
So there's probably only 1 season after this, which I predict they will break into 2 seasons.
And the one difference between it and a normal anime is normal people in Japan like it, not just otaku.
Yeah. Well, I mean, normal people like One Punch Man. OPM has become a normie thing as well.
Yeah, but it's nowhere near the popularity of Kimetsu no Yaiba.
And Boku no Hero Academia, their couple of movies also performed incredibly. But the quality of their animation went down the toilet in later seasons. So I'm saying, unlike these other shows where we have notably seen previously that shows as they carry on sometimes become complacent and stop trying to do well, this show has managed to maintain a very high level of animation that is ridiculous.
I think it just gets down to the fact that it's a studio with some integrity.
That is also very helpful.
And it helps, again, not to harp on the point, that there is enough money behind it that they can get enough, support to make the show they want to make, right?
In the back over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, the primary point I was making with those shows that I mentioned is all of those shows have made billions. They're really high popular franchises.
Yeah.
And when ReZero Season 3 comes out from a different studio and looks like trash, I'll remind you that show also has
it's very popular, but I just... There's it's almost order of magnitude how much difference the popularity is between these shows.
The amount of toys that still sell for a show that hasn't been on air for years is still very high.
It makes money.
It's not on the level of this, that's true. But Boku no Hero Academia and One Punch Man were both selling like ridiculous.
No, I'm not really arguing with you. I think it's somewhat. It's like maybe 10 times as popular if you just look at the reach throughout Japan.
Yeah, no, Kimetsu no Yaiba has really been crushing it on sales.
Yeah,
absolutely. The fact that it overtook One Piece for 1 month.
It's just like sometimes you see these videos of people go around Akihabara asking what the popular anime are, and it's like a 15-year-old girl will know Kimetsu no Yaiba, so will like a 60-year-old guy. Like just the scope of who knows it is like almost like Simpsons level at the moment.
Yeah.
But anyway, Yesh, other than repeats, do you have anything else?
Well, Yusha Gashinda and Kimetsu no Yaiba are the 2 that I wanted to bring up.
Dill, anything else from you?
I don't really have anything else that's not a repeat, but I do have ones that I've been watching that are essentially sequels.
Okay.
Of some description. I would say like sequel.
So you're talking...
Summer Ranking has got like a in-between episodes thing.
Short stories kind of anthology season.
Yeah, I mean, it is just more Osama Ranking. It's not like really adding much to anything.
Yeah, it's like
it's just giving you more.
They're adding some fluff that could have happened during the first season.
Yeah. And then, I've been continuing with The Witch from Mercury, Mobile Suit Gundam.
Continues to be good?
It does. It does continue to be good. I'm very happy that they didn't take like a 45-degree turn.
I must say, I wish they would get back into like the main story. We're getting like the Earthling kind of saga happening right now.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I feel like I'm hoping at least that they've progressed from high school Gundam to now like real world Gundam. Like now.
Well,
now
I mean,
we're
people
actually
are
dealing
starting
with
to die
actual-
now, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think we're getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The school thing is also weird because it's not like a real school. It's like where nobles go to learn to be shitty people kind of school.
No, it's like a rich prep school.
Yeah.
Where the poor people that are there on scholarships that aren't actually rich
Die
are
horribly.
hating their lives.
Oh, that poor guy. The poor guy with the purple hair. I feel so bad for him.
Yeah. That
Okay.
That is it.
Let me mention this to you guys and see what you think about it. It's the cult anime, Mushinki.
Doing God's work in a godless world.
Sure, Sekai, blah blah blah. As
Oh,
Yesh
yeah,
says.
that one. Yeah.
I really like it. The first 2 episodes I thought were pretty great. The budget is so low for it though. The animation is terrible. Gosh, the 3D for a monster that happened in this. Oh my gosh, that was some of the worst things I've seen since the 90s. But it's just as we suspected. The plot is as it said it was, which is a man gets sacrificed to a god by a cult in Japan, gets thrown into the sea and drowned. He gets reincarnated bodily as his normal self, and he integrates himself into a village. Turns out the village is full of untouchables or whatever the equivalent is in this world, and they then get sacrificed. Not sacrificed because these people don't believe in gods or anything, but they get killed because they're I guess undesirables. Yeah. And so as the people he likes are getting killed, he also is dying because he tried to rescue them and gets stabbed. And so he takes off his cult necklace thing, which for some reason he's still wearing, and says, to the god, come down and save me. I've literally died for you. So she does. And, sorts out his problem by murdering all of the people who are trying to kill them and resurrects all the people he wants to be resurrected. That's the first episode. I won't say too much from anything else. It's an interesting premise. Some things are going to happen which is going to make it undesirable for some people to watch. Because they go into a very cultured man's arc about things shortly. But yeah, it's very interesting. I think it's weird, and it's not like a normal isekai. And I approve of that. We have to talk about this one, though. Kono Subarashi Sekai, the explosion version. Megumin's explosions on this wonderful world, whatever it's being called, is about our protagonist love interest, but before they meet the party. So she doesn't have any magic yet, and it's just about her village sending her to school in order to learn advanced magic. Yesh, have you watched it?
No.
Dill, have you watched it?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I mean, it's going to be really popular, at least in the West. It's like 5th ranked on this season's shows, and I don't know if it's worth watching. It's all just about background stuff that happened in the Konosuba world. So if you want to know more about that world, it does feel that it's not exactly like the source material it's based on. So that they do add a lot more detail, and they have like a different subplot that's going throughout the whole series. Although it hits all the major plots, so it's gonna square up with the anime eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's not bad. It's not great though. It's certainly I don't think it deserves to be 5th on this season of anime. But yeah, okay. Well, obviously we don't have any more opinions on that because I already have watched it. And there are a few other things which I think are pretty decent. I'll just say their names. So, The Galaxy Next Door, about a manga artist who gets a alien assistant. Kawaisugi Too Cute Crisis is about an alien species who are about to destroy Earth, but they discover Earth has cute animals.
Cats.
Cats, dogs,
Mountains
pandas,
of cats.
and they just can't bring themselves to do it after that. Anything else anyone wants to mention? Because if not, I think that is all. There is this one, which is very much a new Takagi thing. It's... gosh, I don't know what the English title would be. I think it's my classmate is a Shinigami or something in English. But it's about this little idiot elementary school transfer student. Comes into a new classroom and befriends the unpopular girl. Because he hears the students talk about how she's actually a witch, actually a Shinigami. And he sort of takes that literally, and so he wants to be cursed by her, because he thinks that's like an edgy, cool thing. But he's like just super positive and doesn't really understand any implications about it. And kind of inadvertently kind of saves her from having a horrible childhood, I guess. So yeah, I think that's going to be really popular. I think that is going to be the new Takagi. It's probably going to last.
It's very Takagi-like, but I don't believe it'll actually pick up, unfortunately.
I don't know. I think let's wait and see. It might stick around after a few more people discover it. But I could be wrong. Alright guys, that'll do it for this episode of That Japanese Thing. Thanks everyone for watching. I've been Chris.
I've been Yesh.
I'm Dylan. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.